committees who have been invited to be part of this briefing. The select committee, which is already in IC, the chair already is in, Honorable Mahlangu. Scopa has been invited as well. They have confirmed. I don't see them yet. I see Zibula, Honorable Zibula. Ben Kali is in there. What is the chair?
Sikhona Sihlalo. Sikhona.
Uze wafika nawe.
Konke naloko kunye benikhuluma ngikuzwile. Good morning, Chairperson and colleagues. Good morning.
Sikhulume lutho ngawe.
Uyasizwa kodwa uvuma.
Zake sikhulume lutho ngawe.
Honorable Hlengwa, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. I've been greeting you. I thought you were not in the platform yet.
No. I'm here. We are in Puse. I have to every now and again accept that I must hand over Babu Somyo to score eggs. So today we are in his hands.
We are.
Good to hear from you, Sister Kelly. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time, my brother.
AG is in. Good morning, AG.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, and good morning to the honorable members of Parliament and all that are on the platform.
You look bright today. Is it because it's your birthday?
That must be the reason, Chair.
Might be the reason. Can we start the meeting by wishing you a happy birthday? We hope that you carry more on your shoulders, and with the blessings that you gain more energy to do what you do the most. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I hope that the committee shares what I've expressed as a wish to your birthday. That's
indeed, indeed.
That's right. Colleagues,
many more years.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
We can't ask the age. How old is she? You can't ask the age that question.
No, we didn't. We just wish her good
birthday.
birthday.
Ask the age that question. Otherwise, would audit all of us.
That's an audit queen.
Sure. No, fine. Welcome, colleagues. I hope that
Chairperson.
Yes, sir.
Chairperson, to the person who tried to sing "Happy Birthday," I think it's a disclaimer. Definitely a disclaimer.
I was waiting for the.
Oh no!
I was waiting for the Indian style birthday song. Huh?
Do you want me to sing?
Yes, you are good. You're a good orator and a singer. We know that you can lead that song, Honorable Mlenzana, from your church.
Happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. We wish you well.
By the expression of that birthday wish. We hope that both chairs who are part of us and their committees, Honorable Hlengwa from Scopa and Honorable Tigileti from the Select Committee on Appropriations, Tigileti Mahlango. We hope that we are going to make value of the time which is in our disposal, and we ask the AG that we have the time between now and 9:30 for the briefing to be carried by the Auditor General. I understand, colleagues, that this is a briefing which is done in confidence for those who lead in the areas that relate to the AG and the financial interests in the both houses that to be briefed today. The report has not as yet tabled. The AG is going to be meeting various media houses this morning at about 10 o'clock, I hope so, to avail and just expose them on the finality of the report. And at that time, the report then will be tabled for Parliament. And therefore we wish to say for now up until that time, this should be viewed as the Auditor General who is giving us that brief in confidence up until that exposure. So welcome, colleagues. Over to you, AG.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the Honourable Chairpersons and the Honourable Members of Parliament that have made this opportunity for us to share the outcome of our recent audits on local government. And warm greetings to all the ladies and gentlemen that are listening to me this morning. Honourable Chairpersons, the audits have been completed, the annual reports have been tabled in the relevant municipal councils. The provincial leadership for every province has been consulted, and we've also engaged with the national executive around these outcomes. We've finished the work of compiling the general report, which is something we do every single year, and that report is what we will be tabling today. It comprises the outcomes for every single one of the municipalities, for the provinces, and as also at the consolidated level. The general report includes our analysis and our insights on the audit outcomes, our recommendations, as well as commitments that have been received from the leaders. In a slight innovation this time around, Honourable Chairpersons, when you go to our website later on today, you won't only find the general report, you will also have the ability to navigate on a page where you can see detail for every one of the municipalities just by clicking through. And then you'll be able to have a better appreciation of what each and every one of the municipalities looks like from an audit outcome point of view, what material irregularities are there. And this is our contribution to improving access to our work, but also transparency of the audit process. And it's also our contribution to the enhancement of accountability. I'd like to start by crediting the members of Team AGSA who have worked extremely hard over recent months to make this work possible, and they've partnered once again with the staff of the private firms from whom we sourced some of the audit hours as well. Honourable Chairpersons, our reputation promise is that we will audit and report in a manner that adds value into the systems of transparency, accountability, and governance. We don't run government institutions, we are independent auditors, but we see ourselves as an integral part of the accountability ecosystem, which comprises different players with different roles which, if they are played effectively and in a way that's complementary, can make the change that's required. Through our work, we aim to generate insights that we can use to influence and ultimately even enforce a change in the focus, in the behavior, and in the choices that are made by all the players in the accountability ecosystem, especially those that have the duty of running government institutions. When I talk about the accountability ecosystem, it's really about recognizing that there are different role players that are responsible for particular roles that have distinct mandates, which, as I've said, are complementary. Each one of these players has a specific set of responsibilities. If you look at local government, you'll see that the leaders and decision makers in a municipality have got their own specific duties as set out, not just in the Constitution, but spelled out in the MFMA and the Municipal Systems Act. Officials have particular roles and responsibilities. Senior managers similarly have got dedicated roles and responsibilities. They work and report to the municipal manager, who has the benefit of an audit committee and an internal audit function. What we've got to do is make sure that each of those functions operates in the way that's intended. If you look at the role of the Speaker and the Mayor, also stipulated quite clearly in the MFMA and the Municipal Systems Act. And they have the benefit of an MPAC and of council. Again, what we've got to do is make sure that everybody plays their role as mandated in law. Beyond each and every one of the municipalities are the provincial leadership, where we focus on the coordinating departments, specifically the offices of the Premier, the COGTAs, and the provincial treasuries. And they would have accountability to the provincial legislatures, who, if they also play their role, would ensure that the coordinating departments play their role as designated in the Constitution, MFMA, and MSA to support, to monitor, and to intervene where there are problems within local government. We also look at the role of the national executive, where the Minister of COGTA has particular responsibilities set out in Section 48 of the MFMA. And the question would be, to what extent are the honourable members of Parliament seized with holding the National Minister of COGTA and that department accountable for the delivery on their mandate, so that there's the reinforcement as per the design of the ecosystem. We've put the role of the AGSA in the middle, mainly because I want to make the point that AGSA has the benefit of auditing every single one of the public institutions across the different sphere. And what we are wanting to do is make sure that we provide insight, credible, independent insight that's going to help everybody play their roles more effectively and to influence better choices and to even use our new powers to enforce better action. One of the critical stakeholders that's often left unattended is the role that the active citizenry must play. Civil society and citizens acting actually can have a step change in how local government accountability works. And what we would want to do is encourage the citizens to also play their part as designed, so that we can strengthen the institutions in local government and ultimately strengthen that sphere for the benefit of citizens. Let me get to the outcomes. As you know, the audits that we conduct every year cover 3 areas: financial information, performance information, as well as compliance. And our audit reports provide detail on that, but also they include an assessment of the status of internal controls in each of the municipalities. Our audit reports also set out our own view on where the material irregularities are. Together, if you look at the audit outcomes and the status of internal control, together all of that tells you a really good story about the state of the performance of transparency and accountability within a municipal environment. Whilst a clean audit does not confirm that services have been delivered or that performance has been at the desired level and consistently so, a clean audit is confirmation that that institution has put in place the key disciplines of good financial and performance management, that that institution is well positioned to deliver on its mandate and to do so transparently. The audit outcomes this year, you'll see that we've got 41 clean audits in the municipal space out of the 257 municipalities whose audits we were able to complete on time. The eye would be deceiving if it told you that 41 compares favorably against 32 and favorably against the 33 that was inherited by the 4th administration of local government. And I say it's deceiving because numbers might say to you it's cause for celebration. We would highlight that that is not the case. And the insight here is this. Many of the 41 relate to district municipalities rather than the local municipalities, the metros, the intermediate cities, and the municipal entities. It is the metros, the intermediate cities, and the local municipalities and the municipal entities that carry the biggest budgets and that also have the greatest responsibility for service delivery. So what you'll see in the 41 are mostly district municipalities. And also it accounts for a very small number of the population of municipalities. If you start casting your eye towards the right, you'll see that in the blue, we've got 9 uncompleted audits. That relates to audits where submissions were made very late for us, too late for us to complete the audit process, and some submissions still haven't even come through. The biggest culprits in terms of late or non-submissions are the Northwest, the Northern Cape, and the Free State. With 82% of municipalities being the only ones that were able to submit financials on time, what we are seeing is that the journey of instilling good practices and good disciplines of at least finalizing financials and submitting them for audit, that is going backwards. We started at 90% of submissions 5 years ago, and now we're at 82% of submissions. So we have to stem this tide. 25 municipalities have disclaimer audit opinions. Many of those are repeat disclaimers, and that's the worst audit outcome that anybody can get. When you've got 10% of municipalities and a disclaimer audit opinion, you really have little reason to celebrate. 4 adverse audit opinions, 78 with qualified financial statements or qualified opinions on financial statements, and 100 with unqualified opinions on financial statements. 141 say that 141 municipalities, a little over half, were able to publish credible financial statements. What we are seeing is that in that 100 are far too many municipalities whose ability to generate quality financial statements is really non-existent. They tend to rely on the audit process to get to a point where they have corrected their significant mistakes and can publish credible financial information. So what it tells us is that the basics around financial management are not where they should be. And performance information, as I'll tell you later on, tends to be largely ignored. And compliance, it remains an area of challenge for most municipalities. So the picture is not one that is cause for celebration, but rather cause for concern. If you look over the last 5 years, in fact, local government has gone backwards. And in many ways, beyond the audit process, one can see it in how the different municipalities operate. One can see it in how they're able to maintain infrastructure, which is not very well, in how they're able to deliver services, which is not always effective, in terms of their financial health, which is a story that many honorable members have been seized with in different conversations around the poor state of financial health amongst many municipalities. So in essence, we're really looking at a sphere that is not characterized by strong institutions. In fact, institutions of local government have been weakened by this ongoing failure to attend to the basics year after year. So it is really now more urgent than ever that we start to attend to these basics and get the local government sphere operating in the way that it has been intended. As you know, when financial health is poor, institutions struggle to deal with any crises that would confront them, whether it is COVID, whether it is climate change issues around the drought or about floods. If financial health and if the strength of an institution is particularly weak, their ability to respond to any crisis is really quite limited, as we've seen. I'll give you a quick flavor around the provincial outcomes. Most of the provinces have in fact gone backwards over the 5 years. The Eastern Cape, with its 4 clean audits, really has gone backwards if you compare it from where it was when this administration took over. The 2 metros in the Eastern Cape have got qualified audit opinions. There are 4 disclaimers in the province. 3 of those are repeat disclaimers. The Free State has no clean audits, and in fact, this particular sphere in the Free State has continued to go backwards in the face of inaction by political and administrative leaders. Late or non-submissions have become the norm in the Free State, with a number of municipalities that either don't submit, and if they do submit, they submit quite late. As I said, there are no clean audits in this province, and one can see it in the collapse of service delivery across a number of municipalities in the province. Gauteng has got 2 clean audits. The one metro with a clean audit across the country is in Gauteng, which is the city of Ekurhuleni, and Midvaal is also the other municipality in Gauteng that has got a clean audit. The majority of the audits in Gauteng are in the unqualified zone. KZN, our sense is that much work is still required to institutionalize preventative controls and consequence management. This is a message we have given for many years now. It has yet to be heeded with the decisiveness that it should. Over the 5 years, KZN has also gone backwards. Limpopo is probably the only province that has improved over the 5 years. They moved from a number of adverse opinions and disclaimer audit opinions to a place where the majority of their municipalities have got unqualified audit opinions on their financials, in that at least they have credible financial statements that have been published. Much of the improvement has been because of the tone that has been set at the center of that provincial government, where the Premier was very clear 5 years ago about the importance of shifting the local government sphere. The province has also benefited from the coordinated effort that was seen between the provincial COCTA and the provincial treasury. The caution we have issued for the Limpopo province is that whilst these improvements are laudable and are credit to the leadership tone that was set, much of these improvements is credit to the use of consultants, expensive consultants, in an unsustainable way. So our concern is that for as long as there isn't an investment in capacitating the institutions of local government, we're not going to be able to sustain the gains we've seen, and we're not going to be able to move from where we are even. Mpumalanga also regressed over the 5 years with a number of disclaimers and adverse opinions. It remains an area that needs significant decisiveness and action by the provincial government around shifting the lot of the local government sphere. Our view is that over the 5 years, the messages from the audit office have really gone unheeded. The Northern Cape, where we saw a number of late submissions, many of those have been resolved in that the submissions did come. There's only one that is still outstanding, that's Pukwani, where we issued a material irregularity to get them to up the game on at least submitting financials. The good story about the Northern Cape is that their district municipalities are now in the clean audit zone. They also have one local municipality in the clean audit space, demonstrating that clean audit is not just desirable, but it is also possible. So we're hoping that this can inspire other municipalities to benefit from the Operation Clean Audit that is there. The Northwest, which is the second province with no clean audits, has really had the misfortune of significant leadership instability, which has really led to a deterioration in the municipal space. They continue to rely on consultants, and yet their outcomes are what they are. You'll see that they have a high number of disclaimer audit opinions, and in many ways you can link the disclaimer audit opinions and even the adverse audit opinion to the lack of delivery and performance by those municipalities on the ground. Interestingly, when we did some digging in this province, we found that irregular expenditure continues to grow unattended every single year. We found that on average, 43% of what is spent by a municipality is actually irregular expenditure, which tells you that there is a culture of tolerating non-compliance with the law, and it's going to take a significant effort to shift that culture towards one of integrity, of transparency and accountability. The Western Cape has the highest number of clean audits once again. 22 of the 41 clean audits are in the Western Cape. So the province continues to benefit from the coordinated effort that is run from the center of the provincial government. There are still some weaknesses around compliance, which you'll see in the 5 audits that are sitting with unqualified audit opinions. And there are 3 municipalities with qualified audit opinions. So there is still some work for the province to do, especially in the 2 districts being Central Karoo and the Garden Route, which is where the undesirable audit outcomes reside. I want to turn now to the story around the disclaimers. Honorable chairpersons and honorable members, you may recall that last year we made a significant effort to highlight that disclaimer audit opinions really should be completely intolerable. In 2020, we spent a great deal of time highlighting that a disclaimer audit opinion is confirmation of a lack of attention to basic things, such as basic record keeping. And that is compromising transparency, accountability. It says the most unflattering things about the commitment of that leadership to stewardship. It also is linked to poor service delivery. We used our MI process to influence different decisions by municipalities that had repeat disclaimers. Some of them responded well. There are examples on the screen where municipalities that were previously in a disclaimer audit opinion moved towards a better audit outcome. So the ones in green that are written in green on the slide are the ones where they have actually improved. Umzinyati District Municipality moved from a disclaimer audit opinion to one that is qualified. Yes, qualified is not the end of their journey, but it is an important step in the right direction. And that was as a response to our MI process, but also they benefited from direct support that was offered from the provincial COGTA and the provincial treasury. Similarly, Ingoza Hill in the Eastern Cape also moved from a disclaimer audit opinion and moved in the right direction. And they also similarly benefited from input from the provincial government. The one point I would want to make here is that disclaimer audit opinions, where you've got 25 of them representing 10% of municipalities across the country, that is something we should no longer tolerate. And moving out of a disclaimer audit opinion is really not a very difficult task. It is the basics of just maintaining proper financial records. As Team AGSA, honorable chairpersons, we pushed ourselves this year to provide greater transparency on what actually happens at these disclaimer audit opinions. And on the next slide, I think I'd like to share with you some of what it is that we did and what we found. Because we said we can't just simply audit and leave a disclaimer audit opinion, which leaves people none the wiser as to what the problems are in that municipality. What can we do differently? So we pushed our teams and said, this year we want you to go and look at things slightly differently. We then said, of the repeat disclaimers, let's take a sample of 10 of them and have a look at what we can say about where the money has gone. Because a disclaimer audit opinion, basically, the auditor is saying, these financials are so wrong, I can offer you no clarity about what you can do with them. So we thought, what could we do differently? We took the 10 municipalities. In Free State, we selected Malutia Pofung, Masilonyana, Tokologo. In Mpumalanga, we selected Governor Mbeki. In the Northern Cape, we selected Geis and Joe Morulung. And then in the Northwest, we selected Lekwatemane, Madibeng, Mamusa, and Ramotsiri Muilo. We then took their bank statements and assessed through data analytics where the money had gone. Only in 4 of these 10 are we able to tell you where the money has gone. We're able to see that they paid some employee costs. We can see that a big amount of their money went towards bulk purchases, and we can see that a large amount of it also went towards statutory payments. We could see that 28% of their money went towards paying service providers. So the question then is to say, well, that's probably the biggest area of risk around potential fraud and even around invalid payments to people who don't deliver what it is they are supposed to have delivered. So oversight in the municipality, in the province, can now go and focus their attention on assessing whom these service providers are and why they've been paid. On the 6, remember I said there were 10, so I'm talking about the 4. Now on the 6 municipalities, we could not figure out where the money had gone. Having done our analysis, we concluded that we are none the wiser on where the money has gone. So the municipality is not telling anybody, we are unable to assist. Having run our test, we are unable to identify the unique identifiers on these bank statements to see where the money has gone. So the instances of fraud are particularly worrying here because it's highly likely that much of this money has gone where it's not supposed to go. By unique identifiers, I often explain this to people who are my age and beyond, who may not recognize what we're talking about. When we used to have checkbooks, we used to write on a checkbook, on the stub or on the counterfoil, you used to write whom you're paying, why you're paying them, how much you're paying them. So that even when the check has gone, whether it's a month later or a year later, you still have some way of recollecting where that money has gone. In this instance, essentially we're saying the stubs are empty, the counterfoil is non-existent. So we are unable to say where the money has gone. We've taken this work and we've gone and shared it with the Financial Intelligence Center and asked them to assess on where this money has gone and to assist the system in taking the requisite action. The second part of the work we did on disclaimers was to go and visit their assets. What we found was that their wastewater treatment plants and their landfill sites are generally, in most instances, in a really poor state of disrepair, which causes harm to the public, especially the communities that use the water where effluent is running, or that live in the roads where effluent runs, because the wastewater treatment plants are in such a poor state of disrepair. It also causes harm to the environment, and it causes harm to the living conditions of those communities. The one message I would leave with you is that let's not see disclaimers as an audit issue, as a technical issue, but rather accept that a disclaimer of audit opinion is a confirmation of dysfunction on financial management, on institutional management, and the type of dysfunction that really ruins the lives of people that are supposed to be served by that institution. I'd like to talk a little bit about the state of financial management in local government. At the beginning, I showed the slide with the outcomes, and I talked about how there were 141 municipalities that had credible financial statements. If you look at the slide in the bottom half of it, in the middle, there's a bar graph. And there are 2 bar graphs, in fact. One shows 141, which is green, which is the 141, the 100 plus the 41 with credible financial statements. On the left-hand side of it, what we're showing there is that when the audit started, there were only 62 municipalities that had credible financial statements. Through the audit process, where we allowed them to correct the statements or the mistakes we found, we were able to get to at least a credible set of financials in 141 instances. If we had audited the first set of financials and given an opinion on the first set of financials, the whole system would have reported only 25% of credible financial statements. Now, we've done this for many years, as a tradition and as a contribution by the Audit Office. We are now, honorable members, asking ourselves whether, in fact, we are part of, I beg your pardon, whether or not we are part of the problem, because perhaps we are also contributing to some complacency in the system. Because every single year we go through this dance and the system is not improving. People celebrate unqualified audit opinions and they don't attend to the very basics of building the institution. Let me elaborate the point. The municipal space has got the benefit of CFOs appointed, and those CFOs have got teams in their finance units. On aggregate, the system is paying 10.4 billion Rand a year in payroll costs for the people charged with managing finances for the institution. Now, if you've got a team whose job it is to manage finances, the very basic that they can do is prepare quality financial statements during the year and at the end of the year. They're not able to do that. Then they have the benefit of an internal audit function and an audit committee. We still don't have good financial statements. Then at the end of the year, they go and hire consultants to help them compile financials. And you've heard us say this before. This year, they've spent 1.26 billion Rand hiring consultants to put together financials for them. And yet, when we get to the audit process, only 25% of municipalities have quality financial statements. And then national and provincial government offer support by reviewing financials, reviewing audit action plans, preparing for audit, and yet the system itself is not improving. So what we're seeing is that despite all of these investments by different players, the financial management controls and disciplines remain weak. And for as long as that happens, the institution gets weakened. Financial health gets compromised over time, and the ability of that institution to do what it's supposed to do is compromised. So we are wondering whether or not we are also, like the other players, offering an expensive band-aid, one that is not allowing the system to respond and change behavior in the way that they should. It would be interesting to hear what your counsel and advice would be in this manner. Our stance is that we've got to start doing things differently. We've got to start offering differentiated support for all of the municipalities, not just us, but also national and provincial government ought to rethink the type of support they're offering. Consultants need to rethink how they're showing up in the course of their work. And also, and probably even more importantly, the role of these CFOs and the finance team that they lead, that role needs to be played in the way that it's been designed. The next slide deals with financial health. And as I said, much of this story is known to the honorable members. Many municipalities across the country have got significant financial health challenges. Far too many of them approve budgets that are unfunded, in that they make assumptions about the type of revenue that they will collect, and then those assumptions don't ring true. They spend money basically that they don't have. They run out of money and end up not being able to meet their obligations to creditors, specifically Eskom, the water boards, SARS, and the cycle rolls in that way. They're unable to meet their obligations in terms of maintaining infrastructure. They don't even plan for maintaining infrastructure in the way they should. But then what happens is that infrastructure deteriorates over time and it creates major problems for the system. So financial health is one of those indicators that says the ability to manage finances needs to be dealt with urgently so that the little that is available is managed appropriately. I'd like to then move to the next slide, which deals with performance information. And all I will say there is that performance information is largely ignored in this sector. Far too many municipalities don't attend to planning for performance properly, executing it properly and monitoring that execution and reporting on it. We see it at the end of the game when there's reporting. Most of them are unable to compile credible performance reports. For us, it's not so much an audit issue, but rather an indication that municipalities are not preparing themselves to actually deliver services in the way that has been designed. And that is all to the detriment of the communities that they serve. It's going to be critical that we focus the attention of the leaders in the municipalities, the leaders in the province, to drive a different set of behaviors around planning for service delivery. I'd like to move on to the last input before I hand over to you, Honourable Chairs, which is really the one about the material irregularities. And I'm quite sure this is an area that is of great interest to the Honourable Members of Parliament. We are in the 3rd year of implementing these powers. We are now implementing these at 94 municipalities. We've identified 185 material irregularities, and they cover the similar areas that we've dealt with before: procurement, contract management, infrastructure maintenance, billing, cash flow management, repeat disclaimers, non-submission of financials, the maintenance of wastewater treatment plants and landfill sites. So really what you're seeing is that we've been able to start offering different type of insights beyond just the ones where we can see financial loss, but also looking at harm to the institution, harm to the public, harm to the environment, which naturally we can't quantify, but they're important because they focus the minds of those that run municipalities to fix these things. Some of the municipalities respond, and they respond by attending to the things we've raised, whether it's about maintaining financial records so they get out of a disclaimer, whether it's about stopping supplier contracts where things are going wrong, whether it's about reporting matters for investigation, especially criminal matters. One of the examples that we can share is that in the city of Tshwane, a couple of years ago, we identified a material irregularity insofar as the security and safeguarding of one of the infrastructure assets. When we raised the MI, the city moved by offering that security, but they went a step further, which was to work with the police to find the people who were damaging this infrastructure. And some people were ultimately arrested, which is what we want, that there are consequences for people who do harm to institutions and to public assets. Some of the municipalities where we identified MIs around paying interest and penalties, really at the heart of those MIs was a caution for the CFOs to attend to the basics of cash flow management. And some of them have responded well. A municipality in Mpumalanga went and negotiated with their supplier so that they could write off the penalties and interest that were being charged and enter into a settlement agreement. Another one, KSD in the Eastern Cape, the CFO did what we expected, which was to say, in the instance where the AG has issued an MI around penalties and interest paid to Eskom, that CFO was then saying, well, let me go and negotiate with Eskom on a different payment arrangement and let me honor it. Let me work with my senior management team and make sure that they have in their own individual performance contracts an obligation to drive the preservation of costs, or rather cost reduction. And let me make sure that there's discipline in the system so that we can manage cash flows better, which is the type of impact we want. Honorable Chairpersons, you'll remember that we've often said that we won't hesitate to issue a certificate of debt when we get to that point. However, the moment calls for us to use this tool in a way that's going to drive a change in behavior, a change in the choices that the accounting officers and senior managers are making. And we're starting to see that impact. On billings, there are a number of instances where we've raised MIs where billing was not happening in the way that it should, and the municipality was losing money. So, especially in the Eastern Cape, both metros have responded to our MIs by shifting their internal controls and making sure that they are billing correctly and are not losing the revenue that's due to the municipality. There are a number of MIs that remain open. Part of the issue is that when there's a transition, when there's somebody changing in the leadership of that municipality, you almost have to start again. So that instability makes it difficult for us to get the impact that we would like and to do so on a timely basis. In fact, we know that instability compromises institutional strength. So the MI journey is an indication that we've got to deal with stability in the administration, and we've also got to deal with discipline and preventative controls so that we don't continue to have high numbers of MIs, but importantly, we prevent problems before they are created. Honorable Chairpersons, that really is our story around the MFMA outcomes. I'll end off by saying, in the last slide, we have issued a call to action for all of the accountability role players so that they work together, playing their distinct roles, but do so in a complementary manner, and focus on rebuilding the institutions of local government. It's going to be very important that every institution has got strict processes that deliver predictably. Every institution has got a clear set of values that are upheld through disciplined monitoring, through timely and effective oversight, and the type of oversight that rewards good behavior and sanctions poor performance when there are transgressions, deviations, and makes sure that there is appropriate consequence management. So our last slide really says that leaders of municipalities must turn their attention to systematically restoring the integrity of their institutions. They've got to stabilize and capacitate the administration through skills and through stability. They've got to institutionalize strong financial management disciplines, whether it's around budgeting, collecting, or even financial reporting. They've got to instill a strong tone around ethical conduct, a strong tone of consequence management where there are accountability failures. And they've got to insist on basic controls, not just on financial management, but also on performance management, so that we reposition local government to one which is a sphere that's characterized by stability, by performance, transparency, accountability, and integrity. So thank you very much, Honorable Chairpersons, for the opportunity to brief you on the work that we've done. I now hand back to you, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, AG, for the briefing. It indeed it gets into what needs to be done after exposing several weaknesses of the system, as you term it, the accountability ecosystem. As something which requires a parliament to tailor its own response based on the areas which matter for accountability, which is going to top the frame on the critical matters. We have to probably, as the committees, indicate if there are any areas of comment or questions. I would visit the system. I see here Honorable Dennis Rader, Honorable Dutoy, Honorable Muretsane, Honorable Van Minen, Honorable Oka. Those are the hands I see so far, or the hand of Honorable Singh. Yes, colleagues. Honorable Ryder.
Good morning, Chairperson. Thank you very much indeed. I am having to work on my cell phone for an electricity supply outage this morning, but thank you for the chance. Good morning, Auditor-General. Happy birthday. And I would have thought that you're much too young to remember when we use checks, Ms. Maluleke. But yes, thank you for your presentation. It's much appreciated. I would like to start, I note the time, Chair, and I'll try and be as brief as I can, but I'd like to take some time to appreciate the fact that the AG has come to present this to Parliament today, so that we who have oversight over these matters are the first informed. And we no longer have to read about this in the media and then get the presentation in 3 or 4 months' time. So to the AG, thank you for taking us on board early in the process. And I do know that our Secretariat had a big hand to play in that. So I'd like to just pass my appreciation on to them as well. Chairperson, yes, the AG indicated that we do have oversight over some of these matters. And from the NCOP's point of view, we certainly have a stronger focus on the oversight over the impact of legislation. And Auditor-General, what I'd like to ask you for on that is a couple of questions. Number one is, have you seen a substantial impact or beneficial impact of where Section 139 of the Constitution is implemented, where administration is taken over by provinces over municipalities? Have you seen any benefits arising out of that, or not? The next question, obviously, we approved the Public Audit Amendment Act a couple of years back, and that was supposed to give you some more teeth. Now, I'm noting that you're talking about material irregularities. I'm noting that there are 9 municipalities that have not submitted or have late submitted their information. And I'd like to know, what are the consequences for that? In terms of the Public Audit Amendment Act, what are you doing? How is that act helping you? And do we need to tighten that act up? Are there any loopholes or any issues with that act specifically that you'd like to raise with us? The third little bit of, it's more regulation than legislation. It's just the impact of the implementation of MSCOA. Have you seen substantial benefit on that? The next one I'd like to ask is about the incidents that we've seen in the past. So death threats, bribe offers, shots fired at people at Mfoleni, at your staff. Auditor-General, have you had similar instances happening again in the current cycle, or have we matured beyond that? The last question I'm going to ask, Chairperson, is just a question, and you alluded to it, Auditor-General, relating to the environmental impact of sewer spillages, etc. Now, I do note that it's a trend generally in the auditing practice that there's a trend towards green audits, where the environmental impact of businesses that they're having on the environment is becoming more and more important. Specifically, banks are looking for that sort of information to see who they'd like to remain affiliated to or associated with. Is there any plan in terms of the Auditor-General's future planning to bring in some form of green audit process so that someone can't get a clean audit when they're dumping all of their sewage into the environment without appropriate treatment? Chair, thank you. I'll leave it to my colleagues to continue.
Thank you very much. Not a good example. I hope those who would follow would have the slipper tank form of questioning. The next one is Honorable Dutoy.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, to the AG, we appreciate the presentation, and yes, I'm supporting what the Honorable Ryder just mentioned with regards to us receiving it in time or before the media. I want to know from the AG what her opinion is with regards to financial audits to be done in these underperforming and defaulting municipalities. Because year on year, audits are being done in these municipalities, documents are circulated, all political parties express their discomfort and with regards to this, but no one is necessarily being held responsible for continuously and continuing with the deeds that they are busy with. And at the end of the day, the communities feel the brunt of lack of service delivery and financial misconduct. So would you, AG, support financial audits to be done in these municipalities? And do you think that it will be cost effective to spend that money to try and recoup some of the funds that are lost and to prevent further mismanagement of funds from taking place. And then secondly, I want to know, with the AG highlighting all these issues on a yearly basis and making mention that the political role players have a responsibility, which is true, did the AG have any engagement with the Minister Dlamini Zuma, the Minister of Kochta, and discuss the matter with her, since she's the political head of this local government, and since most of the municipalities that have horrendous audit outcomes are ANC governed, and as well as ANC premiers and MECs in the provinces? And if she did engage with what was the reaction, and would you say that we will have any positive results yielding from that for maybe holding some of those people accountable? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Moletsane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me acknowledge the presentation and happy birthday to the Auditor General. I'm covered with some questions that I had, and then the other one that I would like to pose is to Auditor General is this one, that she spoke about the sampling of 10 municipalities, whereby they zoomed into their finances just to check, and they managed to find that on 4 municipalities they could trace where the money went to. And from the other 6 municipalities, they couldn't trace where the money went to. So I just wanted the Auditor General just to come to my rescue, so that because now she's now speaking about the municipalities. She's not mentioning their names. Which municipalities are those? I'm more interested to know those municipalities. Now, which are those 4 that whereby they were able to trace, and which 6 municipalities are those where they couldn't trace the money at all? So if she can just reveal the names of those municipalities, I'll be very happy. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Van Menen.
Thank you very much, Chair. I also want to agree with the Honourable Ryder and the previous speaker. There are a lot of details that we're not getting in this presentation, and I just want to know when.
The volume.
Is that better?
That's better.
Thanks. Essentially, when we'll be getting the more in-depth report, because although it was a good assessment this morning, we really do need the details of the actual municipalities involved. And I had a look through the slides, and whereas they do cover things, it really is the more sort of serious detail that we need in order to really ascertain what is going on. Thank you.
That's right. Honorable Outcome.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you also to the AG, and AG, very happy birthday. May you have a blessed year lying ahead of you. Chairperson, I'm going to touch on 2 quick things, and that is, firstly, cadre deployment and consequence management. Those 2 things, I think, are at the core of what we experience when it comes to not receiving clean audits. We have seen over the years, and this is a topic that we touch on every single time, and that is, where is the consequence management? We see people making mistakes, being in positions, and absolutely nothing happens to them. We know now that the Auditor-General has figuratively got some teeth to implement some of these measures, and I'm firstly asking, what and when are you going to start to really implement this so that we get rid of all these rotten apples in these municipalities? Then on cadre deployment, Honourable Chairperson, we know why these people are there. To appoint somebody that firstly might not have the qualifications to do the job, or that does not have the experience to do a job. Working with people's money, this really has got to stop. We need to look into appointing fit for purpose people, people that will do their work without fear or favor to anybody, that will root out corruption in all their segments that they are working in. So I would really put emphasis on having consequence management put in place in order to ensure that we've only got fit for purpose and the best people available there. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Singh.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. Can I keep my camera off? I really also want to appreciate the presentation and you, Chair, as well, for having organized this. I know we spoke about it as COAG some time ago, and wish the Auditor General a very happy birthday to boot. May she have many, many more. I think, Honourable Chair, perhaps talking from the side of SCOAG, because that's the committee that I serve on, the Auditor General did reflect on negatives with some municipalities regressing, but I always like to look at the positives. And there were some positive results of changes in audit outcomes in many of the municipalities because of interventions by the Office of the Auditor General and other agencies. And I think we need to highlight these interventions and use them to try and correct those that are regressing. And I think from the side of SCOAG, it'll probably be our responsibility to ensure that we capacitate the Office of the Auditor General adequately, because that's our responsibility, oversight, to make sure that, the things that they are doing right continue to be done, and that we could have probably a different outcome next year when she's making this announcement again. But it's depressing to know that, the municipality, the state of municipality is not in a good space. And I think we have a collective responsibility with our colleagues sitting on NCOP, COCTA, SCOPA, and ourselves to come together perhaps, in the third term and just try and work out what are we going to do collectively with the Office of the Auditor General. And now that they've got the Accountant General appointed, what role is that office going to play? Because we've always said that they haven't had a head, an Accountant General, and I noticed that there is an Accountant General. So I thought I'll just make those few comments without going into much details, but I really appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Singh. I think members who had indicated that they would want to speak and comment or questions have been exhausted the list. Back to you, AG.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, and a big thank you to all of the honourable members that have offered questions and inputs. I'd like to also thank all of you for the very kind birthday messages. I really do appreciate those. Honourable Ryder, the matters that you raised around the Section 139 interventions, what we find is that all too often those interventions happen much too late. They are therefore not geared for the type of success that we would want to see. It's going to be quite critical that the interventions are done on a timely basis, but importantly, they are designed so that they can start to deal not just with band-aid short-term type solutions, but the type of solutions that are about confronting the real issues that make it difficult for that institution to operate in the way that it should. So I hope I've answered your question. I just believe that there needs to be a rethink in the approaches, and there needs to be much greater urgency to implementing those things so that we get the benefit as designed. In terms of the MIs around non-submissions, so we've issued a number of MIs where financials were not being submitted. What we found is that a combination of issuing an MI and escalating the non-submission to the provincial leadership does have some impact. So a number of those late submissions came through late as they were because we were able to use our reach into the provincial leadership to advocate for submissions. In terms of the MIs that we've issued, it's a matter of law. Somebody is not complying with the law if they fail to compile financial statements and submit them for audit. And we believe that causes harm to that institution and that the accounting officer ought to be held accountable. On the MIs generally and the law that has been put in place, and I'm answering Honourable Okap as well, what we are finding is that instrument, we're now in the third year of implementing it. It does work. It's limited when there is instability in that institution. So the impact of it can be held back when there are shifts in who's running the institution, because you have to start the conversation all over again. So stability is a real impediment. And in fact, instability is an impediment to driving the type of institutional strength that's required. But in terms of the impact that we are able to have using these MIs, I'd like to also offer the honourable members of Parliament the report that we are tabling today as well on the MIs that we've issued, not just in local government, but in provincial and national government. In there, you'll see every single MI and what status it is. Some of the impacts I've spoken to before, which says beyond the certificate of debt, for as long as you're able to get accounting officers acting on the MIs that we've identified, you are making some impact. What we've got to push for is that accounting officers respond not only to MIs, but they respond to all audit issues in a journey of driving systematic improvements in how those institutions are being run. So far, other than the instability that we see, I can't say that there is a problem with the instrument itself. The way it's been designed is not to have the AG getting people to go to jail. That's the role of law enforcement. Ours is to find every way to get everybody in the accountability ecosystem to play their role. What you'll see us doing more and more is to refer matters to the relevant institutions that have got other mandated powers. For example, when I talked about those 10 disclaimer municipalities, and I said the ones with the 6 where we could not find where the money had gone, we were able to refer it quickly to the FIC. And we'll continue to work in that way. When we did the real-time audits on the COVID expenditures, we did just that. We were able to advance a number of our insights and our databases to members of the Fusion Center, who could then use that information to do their work, whether it was the SIU or the Hawks. And you've been able to see the impact of the work that they've done, having worked off what we were able to provide. On MSCORE, we're not seeing much of an impact yet, and much of it is because the basics of financial management are not in place, and you're not going to be able to deal with this thing unless we have people in those finance units, in those budget offices, doing what it is they're supposed to do. And as I say, much of the work is not very complex. It's really just about the basics. You know, one of the things we found is that basics are not being done by people in those finance units. There's a municipality where we found they paid 34 million rand to a consultant who helped them to go and claim VAT from SARS. Now they have a CFO in place. Compiling VAT returns should not require a consultant who's going to be paid 20% of what comes back from SARS, and that amounted to 34 million rand. So what I'm saying is we've got to build institutional capacity in each of these municipalities. The threats to our staff, Honourable Rider, the lockdown provisions have really helped us to keep our staff safe. The instances where we had our staff being threatened relates to the period, let's say pre-COVID. What we are finding is that there aren't those instances anymore. We're not yet complacent, but we do hope that all South Africans will continue to advocate for the safeguarding of the staff of the National Audit Office. We've had the benefit of the provincial leadership in each of the provinces where we operate, supporting the journey of keeping our staff safe in all of the areas where we operate. We would want to advocate that that continues. Honourable Judoy, the financial audits must continue to be done. I don't think that any of us want to advocate for a scenario where those that are charged with managing funds on behalf of others can get away with financial audits not being done. So it's critical that they be done. The question is, to what extent do the audiences of these audit reports actually act on the information provided for them? To what extent does the mayor and the council, working through MPAC, act on the outcomes of these audit reports? To what extent does the MEC of COGTA look at how the audit reports of the AG are being dealt with by each and every one of the municipalities? Because that's their responsibility in law. To what extent does the provincial legislature hold that MEC accountable for fulfilling their responsibility of making sure that municipalities have a proper, quality, timely response to AG findings? Have we engaged with all of these players? Absolutely we have. And the response has been a recognition that we need to act much more urgently. And we also need to offer differentiated type of support to different municipalities. You would appreciate that a municipality with a repeat disclaimer needs a different medicine, a different support, different intervention from one that's got perhaps a clean audit and is struggling with making sure that they deliver services in a way that's balanced and that's consistent across all of their communities. Similarly, somebody who at least can get financial statements right would need a different sort of intervention to sort out their compliance or even performance information issues. So what we're seeing is that there's a recognition that we have to kind of sit back, all of us, and rethink our roles and approaches and make sure that they are the type of solutions that are appropriate in these specific institutions. On the 10 disclaimers, I'll offer the names again, but the report is being tabled today, and it will be available on our website later today. So Honorable Minen, fear not, that report will be available to you and you'll be able to click through to each and every one of those municipalities. So we're just tabling today, and then you'll be able to, by the end of the day, you'll be able to see the substantive report. But the names that we looked at in terms of these 10 disclaimers, in the Free State, we looked at Malutia Pofung, Masilonyana, and Tukologo. Those 3 fall within the 6 where we could not figure out where the money had gone. In Mpumalanga, we looked at Governor Beki. That one at least falls within the 4, so we could see where the money went. In the Northern Cape, Face is one where we couldn't see where the money went. Jomurulung, we could see the money where it went. So Jomurulung falls in the 4, Face falls in the 6. In the Northwest, Lekwatimani and Madibeng, we could see where the money was being paid to. Whereas Mamusa and Ramotsiri Muyilwa, we could not see where the money went to. So Honorable Mletsani, I hope I've assisted. But as I say, the detailed report will be available later today. Honorable Okam, I think I've answered the question on the Public Audit Act. One of the instances where we issued binding remedial action, which if it's not implemented would get to a certificate of debt, is in Lakamudiri Mulema, which has a number of MIs, ranging from things like environmental harm and public harm to things like having paid for goods and services that they did not receive. The binding remedial action that we've issued is still being attended to. What happened was that the new mayor who came in following the more recent elections asked for an opportunity to work with this accounting officer to get the action that is required. So we've given that opportunity and we'll continue to follow up and ensure that is attended to. So whilst you might not see a certificate of debt yet, what we can give you some sense of is the impact that a number of our MIs is having in different parts of the country. Honorable Singh, I value your input and recognition that the work we do as an audit office needs to be funded, and we need to make sure that the office remains capacitated to fulfill the role that it must play. I think by now you know us very well. You know that we respond to every challenge. We do our very best to add value. We push ourselves significantly. I have the benefit of leading a team of people who are patriots, and they always rise to the challenge, especially where I personally try hard to push them and get them to do more. But they're a source of inspiration and pride, not just for me, but I would dare say that for all South Africans. And it's going to be very important that all of us work together to ensure that this capacity is maintained, that these people are kept safe and given space to do the work that they must. But thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I think I've responded to everything now.
Well, thank you very much, AG. Yes, indeed, you have offered your responses. Honorable Hlangwa, is still in the platform?
Yes, Chairperson. Good morning and good morning to colleagues. I think let me start off by also
your volume.
Volume, all right.
Can you audible now, Chairperson?
That's better. That's better.
All right. No, thank you very much. Let me start off by wishing the AG a happy birthday. And assure her that I know for a fact that people born in June tend to do good things, and she's one of those. I think, Chair, from our side, Scopa, we will, of course, receive the report from yourselves as SCOAG once it has been tabled to Parliament. And we make the commitment that in order to bring to, life the work of the AG, the report will be processed accordingly, and we will continue interacting with the AG and her team. And I think with the Portfolio Committee on COGTA as well, particularly around the disclaimed municipalities and the repeat offenders, as a means of ensuring that there's accountability there on one hand, but also dealing with this perennial headache of disclaimers. I think that the work that the AG has done and continues to do is good work, and the transparency must be welcomed because it is an enabler to the legislative sector to be able to fulfill its mandate. So on my side, there's really no questions. Suffice it to say, we are committed to doing what is expected of us in order for the work of the AG to be meaningful and to find expression in the value chain of oversight in the work that we do. And I really appreciated how AG was reminding us, abadala, about those long days ago of the checkbooks. Those were the times. So thank you very much, Chairperson, and we really look forward to interacting with this report and assure the AG that the work won't end with the tabling now, but of course, so I think in the third term, we'll prioritize those municipalities as a committee, and then we will take it from there. And I know that the AG has been available before and will continue to be available to us. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sangwa. You were not only reminded, you were schooled. Honorable Masangu.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, and good morning to everyone on the platform. I think I have said a happy birthday message to the AG, and let me join everybody who has welcomed the report. And I think the approach that we're taking now, that we are the first to be informed at this level, is very much appreciated. And I think from my side, it's what do we do with this information, a way forward. And I think as a select committee from the NCOP, we have a direct responsibility on the local government. Together as a committee, we will have to sit down, discuss, and map out a way forward, maybe including the SALGA, COGTA, and other relevant select committees. But I think I just happy that we were able to find this opportunity to be presented with this not so good news that are depressing. We know we have been trying by all means to raise issues that are not making us happy, and we don't see the value of the money. And as the appropriations committee, we can't just appropriate money, allocate money, we have to follow the money. And that's exactly what we are going to do. And it's about time that we follow the money and go to the ground and verify, and not leave everything to the AG and the sector committee. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Chairperson, and Team AG. Well done, keep up the good work, and let's keep in touch, not only wait for the outcome, let's keep engaging. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, honorable members. Thanks to the AG for the outcomes. Yes, indeed. I think what you have done together with your team so far has ascertained some form of a scale which ought to be modeled from your technical process in terms of auditing to the value which is seen through that presentation. Things that you have referred to already, that you could assess whether there is life in an institution through the audit process, and you would appreciate the entrenchment of an ecosystem of accountability, which benefits from a coordinated engagement with various stakeholders. If there is lapse on a stakeholder functionality, that lapse has got an impact in terms of the outcomes. As you have earlier indicated, the municipalities are there, but our system is a system which realizes better results if there is integratedness in terms of such operations. The second area which you have emphasized for us is that if you make that assessment, you could be greened in as far as the actual improvement realized, because it's not visibly showing a positiveness, because where it matters, there's little progress. And if there's little progress where it matters, it means more effort ought to be placed where it matters, at the very local space. And the third thing is an area of planning. If there is proper planning, there's good realization, and there's value, and that value proposition could lead into sustenance, which could be a benefit celebrated through service delivery by our own communities. The last and the fourth area is that financial health indicates the depth and ability of any institution to face whatever adversarial situation that is posed by nature and environment. If you fail in your capability on financials, you are weak at that point. That is going to be realized even on your inability to attend to very basic areas which ought to somewhat be a benefit to our own communities. And that is glaring in the accountability system in terms of performance. So from our side, we really appreciate that you don't fail to report in time to Parliament and to our own committees to see how their local government structures are performing, which is something which we must appreciate. We have seen growth in the material irregularities, which you have indicated that you have entered into 185 of such, which is something which we must build on in terms of reduction of such irregular instances, to ensure that municipalities function better, and our communities would celebrate that benefit through getting proper required services at good times. So thank to the colleagues who comments and questions. I see even on the written comments, which are of a policy nature, which requires that within your various committees, you deal with those things, the necessity of SCOA, how you could take that expense into a value add rather than something which is going to die in life while it benefits into the system. So those matters, as the chairs have indicated, that various committees will have to deal with the detail, which is a detail relevant to each committee, which is part of this briefing. From our side, as SCOA, we are very pleased, AG, that indeed in our insistence that we ensure that Parliament should observe the fact that your ability to be independent lies on your affording the various financial angle to do these audits, and you present those independent findings in good time. Thank you very much, and enjoy your day. Be merry in a birthday. The meeting adjourns. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, AG.
Enjoy your day, ma'am.
Raleigh, Chairperson.